Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. If you thought the fireworks in Melbourne were reserved strictly for the start of the Grand Slam, think again. We have a developing story that has sent shockwaves through the tennis world before the first official ball of the Australian Open has even been struck. The headline today isn't just about a win. It is about a statement, a declaration of arrival. The title of our deep dive today is Eala Conquers Australia, the win before the war begins. We are witnessing a phenomenon in real time. The 20-year-old Filipino sensation, Eala, has done the unthinkable. She has not just arrived in Melbourne. She has planted her flag in Australian soil with a level of dominance that belies her age. In a stunning display of tactical brilliance and newfound mental fortitude, Eala has swept aside an Olympic silver medalist, Croatia's Donna Vekic, in straight sets at the prestigious Kooyong Classic. But why does this specific match matter? Why are we dedicating this extensive coverage to what some might label an exhibition? Because, my friends, in the psychological warfare of elite tennis, there is no such thing as a friendly match when you are standing across the net from a top-tier veteran you just beat a week ago. This was a rematch. This was Vekic seeking revenge. This was the tennis world asking, was Auckland a fluke? And Eala answered with a resounding no. By defeating Vekic 6-3, 6-4, Eala didn't just win a match. She solidified her place in the WTA Top 50. She proved that her semi-final run in Auckland was not a flash in the pan, but the new standard. She conquered the conditions, the opponent, and the pressure, effectively winning Australia before the Australian Open officially started. This is the "it has not been started yet" win, a victory that sets the tone for her entire 2026 campaign. In the next hour, we are going deep. We are going to dissect every critical moment of this encounter. We will analyze the tactical shifts Eala has made to her forehand, her improved serve metrics, and the mental resilience she displayed when Vekic tried to bully her off the court in the second set. We will look at the history of the Kooyong Classic and why this specific venue is a crucible for future champions. And finally, we will project what this momentum means for her historic main draw debut against Alicia Parks at the Australian Open. Buckle up, tennis fans. The revolution is being televised, and it is being led by a 20-year-old from the Philippines. Let's get into the deep dive. To truly understand the magnitude of what happened at the Kooyong Lawn Tennis Club this Wednesday, we have to pull back the lens. We need context. We need to understand the trajectory that brought Eala to this precise moment in January 2026. Let's rewind just 10 days. The ASB Classic in Auckland, New Zealand. This is where the narrative began. Eala, fresh off a gold medal performance at the Southeast Asian Games, walked into 2026 with a target on her back and a fire in her belly. She faced Donna Vekic in the round of 32. Now, remember who Donna Vekic is. This is a player who stood on the podium at the Paris Olympics. She is a Wimbledon semifinalist. She has 4 WTA titles. She hits the ball with a flat, penetrating power that can rush the very best in the world. In Auckland, Eala had to fight tooth and nail. It was a 3-set grinder. It was a physical war. Eala won that match, but critics, and perhaps even Vekic's camp, might have chalked up the early season rust with Croatian or a lucky day for the young Filipino. Fast forward to Melbourne. The Kooyong Classic. This is a tournament steeped in history. It's an invitational. They don't invite just anyone. They invite players who they believe are the current heavyweights or the future stars of the sport. The fact that Eala was even on the card is a testament to her rising stock. But the rematch is always harder than the initial upset. The element of surprise is gone. Vekic knew exactly what was coming. She knew Eala's lefty patterns. She knew she had to attack the Eala's second serve. The script was flipped. The pressure was squarely on Eala to prove consistency. The first set, weathering the storm. Let's break down the first set. The conditions in Melbourne were typical, warm, perhaps a bit breezy, the kind of day where the ball flies a little differently than it does in New Zealand. Vekic came out swinging. You could see the intent immediately. She wanted to establish dominance early, likely trying to erase the memory of Auckland. She broke early, taking a 2-1 lead. At this point, a lesser player, a younger player, might have panicked. Here we go again, they might think. She's the Olympic medalist. She's found her range. But this is where we see the evolution of Eala. We are no longer watching the junior champion who relies solely on talent. We are watching a WTA professional who understands match management. Instead of overhitting, Eala absorbed the pace. She used her lefty cross-court forehand, a weapon that is quickly becoming one of the most dangerous shots in her arsenal, to open up the court. From 1-2 down, Eala went on a tear. She didn't just break back, she dismantled Vekic's rhythm. She won 4 consecutive games. Think about that switch. She went from trailing 1-2 to leading 5-3 in the blink of an eye. How? By forcing Vekic into errors. Eala's depth control was exquisite. She kept the ball deep, neutralizing Vekic's flat hitting, forcing the Croatian to go for lower percentage winners that just weren't landing. The set point was emblematic of the entire first chapter. Vekic, under pressure, tried to force the issue and committed an unforced error. 6-3 to Eala. The Filipino crowd, and make no mistake, the Filipino community in Melbourne turned out in force, erupted, but the job was only half done. The second set, the test of character. If the first set was about tactical adjustment, the second set was about pure grit. This is where the deep dive gets interesting, because the scoreline 6-4 looks clean, but the journey to get there was anything but. Vekic is a veteran. She knows how to reset. She came out in the second set with renewed aggression, surging to a 2-0 lead. Again, Eala was on the back foot. This is the moment where momentum usually swings. A 2-0 lead for a player like Vekic can quickly become 6-0 if you aren't careful. But Eala's response was immediate and clinical. She didn't change her game plan. She executed it better. She fought back to level the match at 2-2, racking up 7 straight points at one stage. This specific sequence, 7 straight points against a top 100 player, shows a level of lock-in focus that is rare for a 20-year-old. She then extended that lead to 4-2. She was in the driver's seat. But tennis is a game of fine margins. The 7th game of the second set was the crucible. It turned into a nail-biter. We are talking about 5 deuces. Both players refused to yield. Vekic, realizing the match was slipping away, produced a moment of magic, a perfectly placed drop shot that caught Eala off guard, followed by an ace. That combination of touch and power is why Vekic is an Olympic medalist. She held for 4-3. The pressure shifted back to Eala. She led 5-3, but Vekic held serve again to make it 5-4. Now, Eala had to serve for the match. The closing moments, ice in the veins. Serving for a match is the hardest thing to do in tennis. Your arm gets heavy. The crowd gets quiet. Your mind starts to wander to the finish line. Eala stepped up to the line. At a crucial juncture in that final game, she unleashed a powerful forehand winner to go up 30-15. That shot was a statement. It wasn't a tentative push. It was a strike. It said, I am taking this match. Following that, consecutive errors from Vekic, forced by the relentless depth of Eala's shots, sealed the deal. 6-4. Game, set, match, Eala. The statistical significance. Let's look at the numbers and what they imply. Beating the same top-tier opponent twice in 10 days is statistically difficult. It suggests that Eala has solved the Vekic puzzle. It means her game matches up favorably against flat, hard hitters. This one also cements her ranking. Breaking into the top 50, world number 49, is a massive milestone. It changes everything. It changes who you practice with. It changes your draw in future tournaments. And most importantly, it changes how opponents view you. You are no longer the underdog. You are a contender. The Kuyong factor. We must also touch on the venue. The Kuyong Classic is an exhibition, yes, offering no ranking points. But for Eala, the value was far higher than points. It was about acclimation. The Australian Open is played on hard courts that can be incredibly fast and bouncy, depending on the heat. By playing competitive sets against a high-caliber opponent in Melbourne conditions, Eala has essentially played herself into form. While other players are just hitting practice balls, Eala has been in the trenches, feeling the pressure, hearing the crowd, and closing out matches. That is a competitive advantage that money cannot buy. Implications for the Australian Open. So what does this mean for the big show? The Australian Open main draw starts almost immediately. Eala's first-round opponent is the American Alicia Parks. This Kyung victory is the perfect preparation for Parks. Alicia Parks, like Vekic, is a power player. She has one of the fastest serves on tour. She holds a record for a 129 miles per hour serve alongside Venus Williams. She is tall, she is athletic, and she hits big by beating Vekic, who plays a similar high-octane power game. Eala has dialed in her return of serve and her defensive movement. She is ready for the pace. If she had played a defensive grinder at Kyung, she might be ill-prepared for Parks. But the tennis god smiled on her scheduling. The Vekic match was the perfect simulation for the Parks match. Eala enters the Australian Open not just hoping to participate, but expecting to win. Her quote after the match summed it up perfectly. "Tennis is such a humbling sport. I'm hoping to go inch by inch, and more than anything, keep the level that I'm playing at." That is the mindset of a champion. Humble, grounded, but relentlessly ambitious. As we wrap up this deep dive, let's take a moment to appreciate the gravity of where we stand. We are often guilty in the sports media of hyping up players too early, of putting crowns on heads that haven't yet borne the weight of the throne. But with Alexandra Eala, the hype feels different. It feels earned. This wasn't a lucky draw. This wasn't a walkover. This was a systematic dismantling of an Olympic medalist, executed twice in the span of a single week. The "it has not been started yet" win is more than just a quirky headline. It is a reality of her situation. She has won the psychological battle for Australia before the tournament has even opened its gates. The crowds in Melbourne have seen it. The Filipino community has felt it. And now, the rest of the WTA Tour has been put on notice. The lefty from the Philippines is not just here to make up the numbers in the main draw. She is here to disrupt the hierarchy. As she prepares to step onto court against Alicia Parks, she carries with her the momentum of Auckland and the conquest of Kyung. She carries the confidence of a top 50 player. And she carries the hopes of a nation that has waited a long time for a tennis superstar on the global stage. We will be covering her entire Australian Open run right here on this channel. Every serve, every volley, every victory. The Kyung Classic was just a prologue. The real story begins now. Thank you for joining us for this extensive breakdown. If you enjoyed this deep dive analysis, make sure you are subscribed because the news cycle in Melbourne is just heating up and you do not want to miss what happens next.